Blumhouse Productions and the director of Upgrade give us a new take on The Invisible Man. So let's talk about it. I've always wanted to do a review naked like this. After The Mummy failed to kick off the Dark universe, they decided to go in a different direction with the Universal monsters, and they passed it along to Blumhouse Productions, who hired the guy that did Upgrade, a very cool, low-budget film to tackle The Invisible Man. Did this new strategy pay off? I'll tell you my thoughts in just a second, but before I do that, go ahead and tell me what you thought down below in the comment section. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did it live up to the director's reputation with Upgrade, or was this one a disappointment for you? I'd love to hear your take on it. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. And I'm very happy to say that with The Invisible Man, Leigh Whannell continues his hot streak. What this movie does so well is it blends the fantastical elements in real-world horror so well. The actual journey that the woman's on is the same journey that so many women escaping abusive relationships face. It's just taken to this much more extreme level and more literal sense when some of the things that she's facing. In part of the struggles of modern day of people getting others to believe their stories, their trauma, to not think that they're being gaslit and going crazy. And the story of The Invisible Man provides a way to do that has all the thrills and fantastical elements, while at the same time being terrifying in just how real some of it feels. And it doesn't need to do big things in the moments to be terrifying. And it slowly builds this tension as this woman tries to kind of continue on with her life, but clearly someone is doing something around her to try and drive her crazy, and people don't believe her, which ties in so much into real world situations that people actually face, instead of starting with a bunch of jump scares and all the tactics that horror films so often rely on these days. It instead looks at what actually scares people in real life. Real terror, not startling people, but what actually is the dangers that they face. And how do you visualize that and almost use The Invisible Man as a metaphor for all of these real world type things? The other thing the movie does so well is rely on practical effects rather than CGI. While at the center of it, you do of course have visual effects going on to make a man invisible. The way this plays out in the scenes is they're using actual real world trickery with things actually moving rather than CGI objects. So when someone gets hit, you feel it. When someone slams into something, you know that it's real, and it just adds this visceral element to a movie that's filled with all kinds of things that we know aren't real, but they feel real. And for a movie like this, it doesn't work if you don't buy into the performances, and here Elisabeth Moss gives a great performance. She feels like a real person. She doesn't feel like a movie character. When she interacts with other people, you believe this is the way she would do things. She's not too charismatic, she's not too cool, she's not too funny. She feels like a person you would really know that would do things like this. And so then as you start moving into the part where everyone thinks that she's going crazy, even more so you buy into it because you bought into her as a real person. Another thing to talk about is that this movie was made for under $10 million, and it just looks great. The shots are framed so well. They linger just the right amount of time. They move around, and because you're looking for things moving and what's not supposed to happen, you're paying so much attention on these shots, and they're framed so well. They're gorgeous the way that they're shot. Some of it just looks pristine. As I was watching, I was like, it looks so clean the way this is done, and how did they make such a cheap movie look this good? And finally, it just provides the experience that you want from a horror thriller. Very early on, you buy into the character's struggle, and you're constantly on the edge of your seat waiting for something bad to happen. And as the kind of abnormalities start happening and she starts to figure something is up, you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, and just the tension keeps building just a little bit at a time, People believe her less and less. It escalates more and more and more and starts moving faster and faster and faster as the movie goes along. And so you're getting more and more invested as you watch it. And that's what movies really should do, that you just keep getting more into it as the movie goes along. It keeps you guessing. You'll watch the trailer and you'll think that showed a lot of it, but it really doesn't, because the movie has so many twists and turns, and it keeps rewriting things, turning the trajectory we on all the way up until when the credits start rolling. That's exactly what I wanted from this movie, and that is what I got. From there, let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And the only thing that comes to mind is the first half of the film is very slow and deliberately paced. And there's not like a bunch of jokes to kind of fill in the entertainment. It's not a bunch of jump scares to kind of keep you engaged. So you have to kind of buy into this slow burn nature of it. Now, I think it's very well done, but some people, if you're going into this expecting this fast-paced horror movie, that's not really what this is. So you need to go in with proper expectations. From there, let's move on to the bad. The one thing that comes to mind here is, in order for this story to take place, there's a lot of plot conveniences, contrivances, and a few gaps in the logic of what takes place. There's certainly points in time where you're like, wait, don't they do an investigation on things like that? Why did she make this phone call at this particular moment in time? How would he know that she was going to do this at that moment? You'll think, I don't think that's how the law works. I think there'd be other consequences. How is his plot supposed to play out? Like, where is this supposed to lead a month from now if she goes along with what's being proposed at this moment? There's a bunch of times you'll be thinking through, wait a minute, how does the logic of all of this work? Why did this happen? And that pulled me out of the movie a little bit at certain points in time. And it's all done there to kind of create this scenario where she feels trapped on this path that's building all of that tension. That is the experience of the film. But at the flip side to it, I think they needed to cheat on the logic a little bit too much to get us to that point. Real quick before I give you my final take on this one, be sure to tell me what you thought down below in the comment section. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in between? Also, on my podcast a couple days ago, we talked about the Universal Dark Universe and why we don't think that it worked, as well as why we think Blumhouse is probably a better direction to take those characters, and why The Invisible Man might kick off some really cool stuff with those characters. So if you want to check that out, you can see it at this link right above. Besides a few plot conveniences here and there, The Invisible Man is a great horror thriller that has a well-constructed story, great characters that you believe in, and that relies on actual scares that are based in reality rather than jump scares. You should definitely check this one out. Overall, I'm gonna go with an A-. On the entertainment scale, it's an 8.6, and go see this one in the theaters. I want more movies like this made. Vote with your dollars, buy a ticket, go see this one opening weekend. If you wanna check out my thoughts on the Universal Dark Universe, you can see my podcast right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.